It's the snake. Actually, it's the last one. It's the last Horcrux.
Look inside him, Harry. Find out where he is. If we find him, we can find the snake. And we can end this.
Hello and welcome to Harry Potter, the official film podcast, as we complete our deep dive into the wizarding world. I'm Rhianna Dhillon, lifelong Harry Potter superfan, film critic, broadcaster, and if there's one thing I'm going to do, it's give Oliver Wood a shout out every time he graces the screen. I'm going to get to him later. We're making our way through the entire series, and you can watch every film along with us on HBO Max. Today, we're on to the conclusion of our story with the second half of Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, Part 2. By my side again as we continue on to the end of Deathly Hallows Part 2. It's the Neville to my Harry. It's the LA Times film critic, Amy Nicholson. Hi, Amy.
Hello.
Thank you so much for coming back and joining us for the conclusion of the Deathly Hallows Part 2. How are you feeling about the ending coming up?
We have made it a long way. We've come a long way from day one Hogwarts, baby.
I know. And it's really weird to think about, how we all were stepping on to those boats in the very first film to now seeing Hogwarts as a battlefield, a place of destruction.
Yeah. You were once so fresh-faced, so naive, so excited. And now, my God, everyone you know is dying.
And we are very jaded and we are very sad. And when we left off, Harry had just destroyed Rowena Ravenclaw's diadem, only to realise that Nagini is Voldemort's final Horcrux. The Dark Lord is hiding her somewhere within Hogwarts, and so the trio sets off to find them. Down at the boathouse, Lucius Malfoy very weakly attempts to convince Voldemort to spare the Hogwarts students, including his son, and just hunt Harry directly. Voldemort couldn't care less. He's focused on his wand. It's time for the conclusion of our saga. Are you ready for the Battle of Hogwarts?
Bring it on.
Harry, Ron and Hermione sprint through the chaos as Voldemort's army breaches Hogwarts' walls. Death Eaters, Giants and Acromantulas swarm from every direction. The corridors burn and suddenly the school is an all-out war zone. Everyone is fighting for their life. Overhead, Oliver Wood returns with a squad on broomsticks to join the fight, screaming, "Come on!" like he's leading a charge into the Quidditch World Cup. Teachers and students duel through the courtyards and the trio races through the collapsing castle, trying desperately to reach the boathouse. They dodge giants wielding Quidditch hoops, Death Eaters blasting through hallways, and horrifyingly, they pass Lavender Brown's lifeless body being mauled by the werewolf Greyback. Hundreds of Dementors descend as the trio reach the courtyard entrance, where they find Dumbledore's army flanking them to provide backup. Aberforth unleashes an astonishingly powerful Patronus that drives the Dementors back long enough for Harry, Ron and Hermione to push onward. So this scene in particular is one that gets me every single time I watch this film. I cry. I can't help it. There is this incredible swell of music, and I think it's because the score is so at the forefront and we're not hearing, the battle is kind of muted. Why is it that the music has such a stronghold over us, even though this isn't necessarily the most emotive part of the film?
No, and it's not even the most emotive music. You know, it's really simple, I would say. Da-na-na-na. It's just drudging, steady. I find that the music here, especially in the scene, it has a restraint that maybe that's why it pulls your emotions out, right? Because it's not telling you, this is epic and cry, 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 cry. It's like, I'm going to try to keep it together. I have a stiff upper lip so that you don't have to.
Yes, that's true. And there are, I suppose, real personal moments. I mean, I mentioned Oliver Wood because I always have to, but we also see Lavender Brown kind of finding out that that's her fate. So many split-second moments where we find out what happens to characters. As we've talked about in previous episodes, they don't get these full death scenes and loads of grief afterwards. It's almost like blink and you miss it. And that's somehow even more powerful, I think.
Yeah, especially for a character like Lavender Brown, you know, and that it's like her and Hermione. It's Hermione discovering her, Hermione kind of having her back at that last moment. When you think of them as love rivals, a little bit of tension, that little beat, like, no, you are not going to get eaten on my watch any more than this. Like, at least let me do this for you.
Yeah.
It has that sense of our priorities have shifted in the biggest way. You know, we are all completely on the same team. There's a heaviness, isn't it?
As so many of them are. I mean, and we're Aberforth and everybody, we kind of see them stepping up in the background. Again, we can't even make out all of their faces, but they're backing up Harry every single time. They have his back, they have Hermione's back, they have Ron's back. And for me, that is such I think, one of the most effective moments in the whole franchise. Inside the boathouse, Voldemort tells Snape that the Elder Wand still resists him. Snape insists the wand answers only to Voldemort now, but the Dark Lord has already decided otherwise. Because if Snape killed Dumbledore, then Snape must be the wand's true master, which means Snape has to die. In an instant, Voldemort sadistically uses a spell to slash Snape's throat, then sets Nagini on him to finish the job. It's a far more violent end than a simple Avada Kedavra. Only after Voldemort leaves do Harry, Ron and Hermione emerge from hiding and run to Snape's side. As he lays dying, Snape begs Harry to collect his tears and take them to the Pensieve so he can finally know the truth. Then Snape looks at Harry into Lily's eyes as he takes his last breath. The violence of how Voldemort kills Snape is genuinely really shocking, even amongst all of the violence that we're seeing all the way through this, even though we know what Voldemort is capable of. But why does this hit so hard in this moment?
Oh, for me, it's a couple of things. I mean, there's that element of detachment that I'm not even going to dirty my hands with this all the way. I find that really like a betrayal on a top of betrayal. Even if you're clued into the fact now that you think like Snape's loyalties are divided, it's not necessarily evident that Voldemort would know that. And so it's just a reminder, like what Lucius Malfoy is slowly realizing, that loyalty doesn't count here at all. I have a question for you though. I mean, do you feel like in this death scene that we're looking at, that this is one of the few times in the film we even get to see Alan Rickman play Snape with no mask on?
As Severus, I suppose, more than Professor or Death Eater or Double Agent.
Right.
Yeah.
Because he's had to keep his guard up.
Yes.
And it feels like here I kind of feel like I'm seeing him for the first time.
You're so right. Everything does just drop and he allows himself to be vulnerable. And it is really effective, I think, because we still don't know what's going on. We haven't yet discovered how much he's sacrificed up until this point. So I think we have more questions than answers in this scene. Like, what is he trying to tell Harry? As soon as he talks about his mother's eyes, it is a bit of a question mark, because everything that we know has been about this rivalry between Snape and James Potter. So why is Lily suddenly coming into it? And I think it's easy to forget that in all of the times that we've rewatched or read the books. And it's easy to forget that for this very first time, we don't know any of this history that's about to be uncovered. I think what makes this scene really special as well is we have a new location. You know, we think we know Hogwarts inside and out, and this is a different kind of boathouse entirely. So what does that give us as the final location of Snape's life?
Because this is different from the book, right? This wasn't supposed to be staged at the boathouse.
No, it's supposed to be the Shrieking Shack.
Exactly. When I was looking at illustrations of the boathouse, one thing that really struck me is the way that they had set it up was that it almost looks like a house divided. You know, that there's sort of this shaft in the middle of it and then two houses kind of both on both sides. And I thought, is this a representation of Snape, of his divided nature?
Oh, wow.
I don't know. That was one theory I had. But the other one I had is, we were talking in the last episode about times when the camera is steady versus times when the camera is wavery.
Yeah.
Here, I feel like I'm very aware that the camera almost seems like it's rocking a little bit on top of the water. That the unsteadiness. I think there's a subconscious unsteadiness you get, that the ground beneath your feet is not permanent.
What an amazing theory. I've literally never thought about that. I think because I'm always so consumed by the performances, but thinking about the way that it's shot, that dichotomy is really interesting. The waves, everything that you know is not necessarily true. Almost immediately, Voldemort invades everyone's minds again, ordering a temporary ceasefire so the dead may be buried with dignity, before speaking directly to Harry but for all to hear. If Harry does not surrender himself in the Forbidden Forest, Voldemort will kill every remaining person in Hogwarts. The trio make their way to the Great Hall, where the cost of the battle becomes heartbreakingly real. Dozens are gravely injured. Lupin and Tonks are dead. The Weasleys collapse in grief beside Fred's lifeless body. Tell us about the details that really hit you the hardest in this little montage.
First, are you okay? I know how much
I'm
Fred
not
means to
okay,
you.
Amy. Thank you for asking. I'm really not. But this is about you.
You know, one thing that really pops out to me in this scene is that no one seems that relieved to see Harry walk in.
Yeah.
That hits me. Here he is. What's going to happen? Is this guy worth it? Is that too much to say? I feel like, not that there's doubt on anybody's face, but just the combination of like one figure who's been the focal point of all of this attention and then everybody now being pulled away towards their own pain. I find that actually as a really heavy emotion here.
Yeah.
And it's cueing into what Harry's big fear has been this whole time. People are going to get hurt because of me. And people keep saying, no, the fight is bigger than you. This is a moment where you really feel him thinking to himself, this is what I was worried about.
Yeah. There is a real feeling of the cost of what everybody has lost, is losing, will continue to lose as long as he's still there with them. Obviously, he's been given this ultimatum now, so they understand. Everybody in the hall understands what his choice is. But I don't think any of them are willing him to walk into the forest and to give himself up to Voldemort. But you're right, it's a very different return to the fray from when they walked in to the Room of Requirement.
And then, the Weasleys. We have to talk about the Weasleys.
I don't want to.
You have to. You have to, and it has to be you.
This broke me. This continues to break me. We've talked so much about the Weasleys are our safe place, our home. We always see them united. We especially see the twins together. We've never seen one without the other, really, apart from maybe like George coming down to interrupt a kiss once, which now seems so long ago. To not even see the death on screen, but to just see Fred's body and then to see Ron's reaction. His mum, we know from the books that Molly Weasley is always thinking about her family dying. It's such a fear of hers. And for the reality, the unthinkable to happen it is the most tragic moment, I think, in the series for me. But I don't know, for somebody who isn't necessarily so invested in the Weasleys, does it hit as hard for you, or does it feel like here is another casualty of war?
I mean, I think just on a core level, the idea that Fred and George can grow up as like twin souls, always having each other as friends. I think anybody, even outside of the story, just is shaken by that idea of here are two people that are now forever one. I mean, it was hard enough in the last film seeing George get hurt, look distinct from his brother. And now that separation has just been cleaved all the way through.
Yeah.
That's massive.
Yeah. And also seeing Tonks and Lupin, again, I mean, the way that they do this in the film is so like the book, because we don't see them die either. We just see their bodies lying next to each other, which is exactly how we see it in the film, with their hands outstretched, not touching. Again, that same motif of being so close, and it's so close to the end and yet so far.
Yeah, and you're right. Now I'm thinking about these two sets of deaths together. One is a pair that's always been together, now cleaved. One is a pair going together.
Which is worse. I don't know. They're both so awful. So in the aftermath, Harry slips away to the headmaster's office. He drops Snape's tears into the pensive and witnesses a flood of memories. We see Snape as a lonely child befriending a young Lily long before their time at Hogwarts. And we see his jealousy as Lily grows closer to James Potter. We learn that Snape overheard part of Trelawney's prophecy and delivered it to Voldemort, sealing the Potters' fates despite his pleas to Dumbledore to hide them. Dumbledore explains that Voldemort will one day return and Harry will need protection. Snape agrees under duress to watch over him in secret. The memories continue. Dumbledore asks Snape to be the one to end his life if it should come down to it, and reveals to Snape the truth of Harry and Voldemort's strange connection. A part of Voldemort's soul resides within Harry, left behind when Voldemort attacked him as a baby. They are inextricably linked. For Voldemort to die, Harry must die too. And Dumbledore has been keeping Harry alive and in the dark until the time is right. Snape is horrified and laments by casting a silver doe Patronus identical to Lily's, revealing his love for her has never wavered, even after all this time. For absolute diehard Potter fans, after all this time, always is one of the most iconic lines from the entire franchise, the entire series. This is one that gets quoted so much. Does it resonate anyway, just as a film critic? How vital is this conversation between Dumbledore and Snape?
I mean, let alone the fact that you have this person that you've been wanting to think of as a kindly metaphor. Has he been raising Harry as a sacrificial victim this whole time? It's hard to argue against that.
Yeah.
Honestly, even if you can say it's for the greater good. But then the always part of it, here's this character who's been wavering strange, and to know that he has this firmament to him, in always love that goes back to his earliest childhood.
Yeah.
There's
a real beauty in there. And it's not something that we ever associate with Snape.
I mean, these flashbacks, they're using this really cool camera technique called lens whacking, where you're looking at the image, you're looking at Lily's face, or you're looking at young Snape, and the picture seems to almost wobble back and forth, right? As though you're holding a picture in front of you and then tilting it. And it's so disorienting, right? You feel suddenly like you're in this world of the strange, of the memory, of the recall.
It's very uncanny.
I mean, the same thing with the margins of this whole flashback. They're wispy, wavery. People are dissolving in and out. It has the feeling of going inside your brain and pulling out images that aren't exactly correct.
Well, I guess, like you say, like memories, they are like water. They kind of slip through sometimes a little bit. And the fact that we kind of hear these echoes as well, not everything feels exactly verbatim.
Yeah, but I think that's necessary, because when you see a flashback, you immediately think this is what it was. But when you see a memory shot like this, then you think, is this how it was?
So Harry leaves the pensive, shattered but resolved, looking like he's aged about 20 years. On the staircase, he finds Ron and Hermione and confesses the truth. He consents the Horcruxes because he too houses a part of Voldemort's soul. And there's only one way that this can end. They embrace, and Harry walks alone toward the Forbidden Forest. As he enters, he pulls the snitch from his pocket, once again revealing its inscription, "I open at the close." Well, it is the end after all, so he presses it to his lips and it opens to reveal the Resurrection Stone. Suddenly, Harry is no longer alone. The spirits of Lily, James, Sirius, and Lupin appear beside him, offering words of encouragement. Harry asks them to stay with him until the end and then drops the stone on the forest floor. His courage strengthened by their love, Harry continues on to meet his fate. In a clearing, Voldemort waits with his Death Eaters and a captured Hagrid tied nearby. How does it feel at this stage, so late, to have all these actors almost come back from the dead? I guess especially Sirius, Gary Oldman, who we lost several films ago.
Oh, well, it's a reunion and it's a funeral march. You know?
Oh my God, I never thought about that.
Yeah, there's so much double kind of speaking here. I mean, I open at the close. Like, I open at the close of the film almost, like the close of this epic chapter. I don't know. I really appreciate this visual of him being surrounded by mentors, family members, friends who can help him make these final steps towards what he thinks might be the end. And that he's actually even going to them for questions that quite can't be explained. Like, how does it feel to die?
Yeah.
I just want to sit with that question for a second, because it's very heavy.
Yeah. Prepared to die, Harry steps forward and Voldemort casts Avada Kedavra, killing him instantly. Harry awakens in a strange pearlescent limbo resembling King's Cross Station. On the floor nearby writhes a small ruined fragment of Voldemort's soul, the piece that had been living inside Harry all these years. Dumbledore, in true Dumbledore fashion, appears to Harry and calmly explains everything. Voldemort's Avada Kedavra destroyed the piece of his soul inside Harry. Harry can now choose to move on to the afterlife or return to the world of the living, wholly as himself. Harry, being Harry, chooses to go back to Hogwarts. There's still one Horcrux left, and Voldemort still has the Elder Wand. What do you think about King's Cross being the place where this conversation happens?
I love it just as the idea of a way station. You know, having only been there probably once or twice as a tourist.
Yes.
It still carries for me like just a connotation of movement. I like how in this shot, somebody has smartly let a little wind continue to blow on Dumbledore's beard. So it's like blowing just a bit. You feel almost like, is a train coming? Is a train going? It has a sense of movement that I don't think you usually see films shoot the afterlife with.
That's true. We do always think of the afterlife as just a very still, static place.
Yeah, so to have it be in a setting that we associate with movement,
and transition.
Thousands of people go.
Yeah.
And the lighting is so interesting too, because it's not stark white. It almost feels like it's darker in the middle and lighter on the margins. Like something's very strange about it.
What do you think about the animatronic baby Voldy?
I'm so excited to talk about the baby Voldy. Yeah. Have you ever seen a film called Eraserhead from the 1970s, directed by David Lynch? That film is famous because it has a grotesque baby form that's alien strange. To this day, nobody quite knows what the baby in Eraserhead is made of, but it looks related to Voldemort, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, I'd like to imagine it's the most famous repellent baby in history, and this is probably number 2.
And also the fact that they're using animatronics and not CGI.
You know, that's been one of the pleasures about revisiting this with you now, is I don't think I appreciated at the time that I thought the Harry Potter films were finishing at a moment where CG was good enough now as compared to the first films where they could do everything, but they were still also reliant on practical. I feel like if they had made this a few years later, it'd be a little more tempting to go full CG. It almost feels like it's at one of those sweet spots between technology and props.
And because a Horcrux is something that we don't really understand. You know, souls are not something that we can normally really visualize or understand. The fact that they're like, we're going to give you something that you could hold, that you could touch, that you could squidge, that you could prod, that you can recoil from, I just think is really smart. It's really visceral.
Yeah, it's almost like to cut against this world that is so magical. You have to have things that you feel like you can touch.
Meanwhile, in the forest, Voldemort believes he's won. Narcissa checks Harry's body and realises he's alive, surreptitiously asking him if Draco survived the battle. Harry silently confirms that Draco lives, and Narcissa returns the favour by lying to Voldemort, declaring that Harry really is dead. Voldemort marches triumphantly back to Hogwarts, with Hagrid forced to carry what he believes is Harry's dead body. As they approach the castle, Voldemort is giddy, cackling like an absolute weirdo, and bizarrely trying to hug Draco. Before we get on to Voldemort, I want to talk about the symbolism of Hagrid carrying Harry. What do you think about this full circle moment, considering that we actually haven't seen that much of Hagrid in the last few films?
No, but every time he is, I think David Yates has been building towards this scene, because he starts off the Deathly Hallows Part 1 saying, hey, Harry, remember when I took you home?
Yeah.
Remember when I brought you here? Yeah. So I think they're seeding that idea so that when the image comes around this level, you really feel it. I like it's weaving it in so that the moment can have impact.
Yeah,
which you have to. This story is so dense.
Yeah. And then Voldemort himself, I mean, Ralph Fiennes makes some choices in this. What do you think about that sort of very weird, poor Draco, that hug that he gives him, that kind of very creepy cackle?
It's so stiff. He does not want to be hugged in the slightest. It's like when you try to hug a cat who has no interest in it whatsoever.
I feel like you've done that many times.
Every day, and I'll continue. I'm the Voldemort of my house to my cat. Yeah, but no, Ralph Fiennes, to me, he is one of my favorite actors because he always finds a surprising choice within a scene, right? He comes to the screen, so much gravitas, so much intelligence, and yet when you are that smart, you have the ability to play stupid, to play silly, to play ridiculous. He has never seemed embarrassed about playing the fool, and that I admire here because, like, my gosh, Voldemort's smile. So broad, so befanged.
He's so happy with himself.
Yes, he's delighted. He's basically dancing.
Yeah.
A bad guy doesn't have to get everything they want and be like, congratulations, I continue to be grim.
Yeah.
He's like, oh my God, maybe he didn't think he was going to be able to pull this off.
He's like, it's happening.
I can't believe I did it. But that also makes him, you almost see the human inside of him too.
Yes, you do. I mean, in a very way, you have to really dig to see it, but the emotions feel very human.
Exactly. He's not just the ambassador of evil. He's a human choosing to do evil.
This is why I love having you on the podcast, Amy, because you really make me see things from a new perspective. I feel like I kind of have my ideas and I stick with them, and then you're like, just take a step back for a second. And every time you do, I'm like, you're so right. So all appears to be lost at this point. Neville, however, your fave, refuses to surrender. He stands up to Voldemort and declares that their friends did not die in vain and that Harry's sacrifice means something. Then from inside the sorting hat, Neville pulls the sword of Gryffindor. And at that very same moment, Harry springs back to his feet. This monologue is beautiful. What do you think about Matthew Lewis's choice in the way that he delivers it? Because it's the most that we kind of ever really hear him speak.
Yeah. And it starts off in such a kind of off-kilter way. People are kind of gasping as he's stepping forward. Is he going to follow Draco and go over to the evil side? No, of course not. We don't really think he's going to. But there's that horrible pause, and you see him get mocked again by them. Like, we don't want you on our side. We've all been a Neville. Like, dodgeball, school. I'm definitely a Neville. Nobody wants to play with me. And yet, in that relatable bit of weakness that I think we've all felt, he gives a speech that almost starts off thinking, wait, is this cruel? Like, it's okay that he died.
He's like, it sounds like, is he giving up almost?
Yeah, it's really clever writing because you're not entirely sure where he's going with it. It's not like, here's my thesis statement. He's sideways into it, but it winds up being kind of seamlessly part of the whole point that the film has been trying to make, you know, how much bigger this is than Harry.
Chaos erupts instantly as Death Eaters begin abandoning Voldemort in droves. The Malfoys decide they are just done with all of this and quietly whisk their son away before any more damage can be done. Inside Hogwarts, the final battle explodes across every corridor. Nagini stalks Ron and Hermione up and down staircases, while Voldemort hunts Harry through the castle towers. McGonagall, Kingsley and Slughorn battle Death Eaters in the Great Hall, and Bellatrix nearly kills Ginny before Molly Weasley steps between them and blasts Bellatrix into oblivion. What do you think about this death scene?
Oh gosh, I mean, to me it feels like a nod to one of the greatest 70s sci-fi action movies of all time, specifically Aliens.
Oh, yes.
It feels like a nod to Sigourney Weaver as Ripley, like, oh, alien, I am done with you.
Molly Weasley is iconic in this moment, but also Bellatrix. We've seen her be unhinged. We know that she can kill. We know that she can maim. We've seen her kill Sirius. We are in real fear of Molly's life at this point. And then to have it switched around.
Yeah, and to have these two women who I think one of them represents this force of stability, domesticity, and the other one is just completely unpredictable, completely unhinged. They are coming at it from like different ways of being female characters in this universe, going head to head.
And Molly has so much more to lose at this point, and that's what drives her forward. She's already lost one son. She's not going to lose any more of her family members. High above, Harry and Voldemort continue their duel as the castle collapses around them. Voldemort physically beats Harry, wraps him in his own cloak, drags him through walls. Their duel is absolutely feral. Between blows, Harry reveals the truth. The Elder Wand doesn't answer to Voldemort because it never belonged to Snape. Draco became its master after disarming Dumbledore until Harry later disarmed Draco at Malfoy Manor. So the Elder Wand only truly answers to Harry. Harry grabs Voldemort by the neck and launches them both off the astronomy tower. I feel like we've been there before. And if they're going down together. They soar violently across the grounds before crashing back into the courtyard. Nearby, Nagini corners Ron and Hermione until Neville appears with the sword of Gryffindor and beheads the snake in one powerful swing. And with that, the last Horcrux is destroyed. This battle between Harry and Voldemort, we see them head to head properly fighting for the first time because we've seen enormous battle scenes, but what is the impact of just having a head to head, a two-hander?
Yeah, a two-hander that feels so physical, that feels so grapply. I mean, have you ever seen some of the green screen of how this was shot? The two actors, they have them upside down, dangling, locked in combat, having to do take after take, wrestling like they're falling to the ground. And I would not say that either of these are known for being action heroes. Neither of them are Tom Cruise. So it's like you really feel like, we're going to do it. We have to do this.
Yeah.
But that suspense. I mean, they haven't been battling each other at the end of every other movie physically like this, physically hand to hand. And I don't even know if I would tell you, coin flip, if this was real world, who's stronger.
I guess also Harry, I think Harry calls him Tom rather than Voldemort. And the fact that they're physically fighting, the fact that they are hand to hand, that yes, spells are like come and go, but they're kind of equals. They're men. They're both men at this point. There is just something really grounded and earthy about this whole thing.
That is true. Now you're making me think of how just a few scenes earlier, Dumbledore tells him that he is not just a wonderful boy, but a brave man.
Yeah.
It is like he's sort of anointing him into this world of manhood that now he is going mano a mano.
But also, what else does Harry have to do to become a man? Like, he has done the most.
A mustache.
A mustache. I'd be intrigued to see it. Voldemort is weakened beyond repair. He locks eyes with Harry one last time and they cast toward one another. Their magic entangles once again, green against red, just as it had in the graveyard years before. Little by little, Harry's magic pushes through and Voldemort's curse rebounds and the Elder Wand flies toward Harry. Voldemort's body disintegrates into ash and drifts away on the wind. It is done. Can you remember the first time that you saw this and what you thought about the visual choices surrounding Voldemort's final death?
Right, because this is a change from the book.
This is.
Here we have been chasing around these like Horcruxes that are putting his body back together. For me, I look at the sight of human dust and I think, well, that's not coming back. You can't put this back together.
Yeah.
And it has a finality that I think is a huge relief. I mean, because basically in any horror film ever, you have your big battle fight against the villain. You kind of expect them to pop up one more last time. Yeah, but this, no. You'd have to get a broom, you'd have to sweep, you'd have to do a lot of magic.
Get Filch on it.
Yeah.
In the aftermath, the survivors convene in the ruined castle. Neville clutches the sword while Luna comes to sit by his side. Hagrid hugs Harry. Filch is already sweeping up, maybe bits of Voldemort, with Mrs. Norris at his side. I mean, that is a level of work ethic that you really have to admire. And Ron and Hermione return hand in hand. Later, out on the shattered viaduct, Harry explains the truth about the Elder Wand to Ron and Hermione. He holds the most powerful wand in the world for maybe 30 seconds before snapping it clean in half and tossing it into the ravine below. For a little while, he was the Master of Death, uniting all three Hallows, but chooses to focus on life instead. The trio stands together, looking out at whatever comes next. And so all that is left is the epilogue. 19 years later, we return to King's Cross Station, where Harry, Ron, Hermione and Ginny are all now adults. On platform 9 3/4, their children are about to set off on their own journey to Hogwarts. After everything, life has continued on. All is well. So the epilogue is a little bit divisive among fans. What I really like, I think, is seeing Harry and Draco sort of acknowledge each other. Like, after all these years, there is still tension. They still don't like each other, but there is a level of respect there that has never been there before. So yes, they are all living their normal lives, but I think the weight of what happened all those years ago is never, ever going to leave them. And I think we really see that in that look between them.
That's true. And it reminds me how I think one of the runners in this entire series has been the adult saying, oh, you just don't know this piece of gossip. Let me tell you. And now they're the adults who are the keepers of all of this little bits of gossip that their kids don't know.
Yes. All this lore. Also, would you name your son after a man who is obsessed with your mum and bullied you for 7 years?
No. But I'm not as big of a person. I'm not the chosen one.
It is time for a howler, and this one isn't going to explode, but I might. This is coming in loud and clear from someone who I have mentioned quite a few times on the podcast. Let's take a look.
Oh, hi. Tom Felton here. Rumours have it that you are talking about Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2. I'm trying not to get emotional. Actually, genuinely, that was one of the... It was the scene that we all knew was coming. It was the last scene that we shot. It's the time I sort of put down my wand on platform 9 3/4 at King's Cross, and I thought I would never be holding a wand again. So, well, the truth is they did do quite a lot of research into what we would look like 19 years later when we shot the scene. So that meant photographs of my brothers. I have 3 older ones. My dad, their hairlines, their facial complexion. And so around that, they designed what Draco would look like 19 years later, which seemed rather unfair compared to Harry and Ron's, personally. But I'm glad I get to put that right by being here and showing you what Draco actually looks like 19 years later. I think somewhat more flattering than what they did in the films. But it was an awesome day. Obviously, we knew it was the end, and that was not a set or a studio. We shot that at King's Cross Station. So it was pretty cool. It's even cooler that I genuinely thought that was the last day that I was going to ever be a wizard. And here I am. Harry Potter and I are sharing a dressing room here on Harry Potter and the Cursed Child on Broadway. So just feels unreal and amazing to be back here at Harry Potter and the Cursed Child doing Broadway like I never would have imagined. I feel very lucky.
I can't believe we got a howler from Tom Felton. I feel like I've been talking and picking him up so much on the podcast. So maybe this is my reward.
My heart was beating for you. I'm very proud. I'm very excited. I'm so glad I could share this moment. And also, that was great to see just how much love and enthusiasm he still has for this franchise. You would imagine. It has been almost as long, I think, since this film ended as to now as that 19-year epilogue.
That's
almost.
true.
We haven't quite hit the anniversary. We're closer to the anniversary than we are to the beginning.
Yes.
And that he's not tired of talking about Potter, that he's still so happy to talk about Potter, and still so obviously proud.
And also the fact that he still gets so emotional talking about. I mean, he's like me watching the film. Like, it's still so raw, I think it sounds like. I guess once you're part of a family and then you have to say goodbye to them, which is something that's come up again and again with a lot of the interviews that we've done, I guess that never really goes away.
Yeah, I mean, these are basically your siblings, your classmates, your schoolmates, your playmates, your everything.
Then how cool, after all that time, like he says, after all that time, to then reprise the same role all those years later and to actually find out what happened to your character. Because I guess for so many people, they never would. They just have to imagine. And yet, not only does he get to find out, but he gets to play it.
But it really makes me imagine the idea that I think of all the special effects we've seen in this franchise, I think just time might be the greatest one, right? To see people grow up in front of your eyes like this, to see them go forth now, to know that you look a little bit better in reality than they imagined, despite the impressive amount of research he's saying they did.
They did all of that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much to Tom Felton for sending in that howler, and you can catch him reprising his role as Draco in The Cursed Child on Broadway.
You've kept him alive so that he can die at the proper moment. You've been raising him like a pig for slaughter.
Don't tell me now that you've grown to care for the boy.
Accept the trauma.
Lily? After all this time?
Always.
After all this time, we are required to discuss Snape's redemption arc. His story has been brewing in the background since the very beginning, but his redemption in death reframes the entire series in a matter of minutes. I mean, we have feelings about him that have been festering across 8 films. This kind of is dropped in our laps at the very, very last moment. What were your memories about when you first discovered this side of Snape?
I think, for me, the core of my surprise in this scene wasn't just that Snape was a double agent. Because, having seen movies, I was kind of prepared for that. Having seen any movies, you're sort of prepared for a figure this complicated to reveal something you're not expecting. But that the reason for his double nature stemmed from a very pure love. That was a surprise to me, that this character was capable of that kind of love.
And especially because we see such a physical reaction to seeing Lily's body. His legs give way beneath him. We see grief etched on his face like nothing we've ever seen before. But we also know that the reason that Voldemort goes after the Potters in the first place is because Snape overhears a part of Trelawney's prophecy and feeds it back to Voldemort. So this is all Snape's fault.
Well, I hadn't thought of it that way. Oh my goodness.
Just to add a whole new level of guilt. I mean, that's surely like the main reason why he agrees to protect Harry for so long.
I mean, it must be, because I do believe that he genuinely also does not like Harry's dad whatsoever. Even the way that we see him in this memory, in this flashback, they film this poor little boy representing Harry's dad like he's just the biggest nincompoop. That's the camera saying that. The camera is saying, like, we don't like this guy. It's treating him like he's the
a
villain
bully
in a movie.
in this, isn't he?
He is. And of course, we're being reminded that we're seeing it through Snape's eyes, through the wobbliness of the camera work. But that said, there's probably a grain of truth there as well. And so these conflicting emotions, love and hate and annoyance and jealousy and rage and sorrow and now guilt on top of it, that is an entire sandwich of feelings to play in the scene. Seeing Snape even in the flashbacks when he's looking at Lily's body.
Yeah.
That's the silent scene, really, in that moment. And you're watching him convey all of this emotion. The way his mouth turns down at the corners, like it's this gaping frown. I think he's earned that. You know, I think he's earned this chance of like just being this conduit of emotions. He looks almost like a fountain of emotions.
It's so genuinely upsetting.
Right, because I think you actually have to have this moment of massive emotion to even make sense of why he's been on this one mission for 7 films.
I think what I love about when we see memories, either through the pensive or even through the diary or all of these other methods that we come to throughout all of the films, is that we are so aligned with Harry's experiences and Harry's perspectives. And these moments let us step outside of that and let him step outside of that as well, and to experience through other people's eyes what their lives were like, what impacted them going forward, what choices were made that means that everything has come to this head here. And I find that really fascinating. We are so ingrained to be brought up in a certain way and to see things from a certain perspective. And all of these give Harry a really interesting step outside that circle to look at it from the other side, whether or not he agrees with them. But we don't get to experience that in our real lives.
Isn't it painful to know that your villains have feelings too?
Yeah.
That your villains are not as cold as they might even act.
And we love doing black and white.
We do.
And this doesn't let us do that.
And I love that pensive is like a homophone for just the word pensive to think, to contemplate. And in the way that you're kind of laying it out like that, it makes me think that one thing this movie I don't think loses sight of is the fact that even though Harry is our protagonist, every single character in here is living their own story. I like that it always takes a pause to say everybody is living their own drama.
Yeah.
You know, like Snape could tell his version of 7, 8 movies radically different.
Yeah.
Hey, you all right? When you told Professor Snape that one was failing you, it will always fail. I killed Snape. But what if the one never belonged to Snape? What if its allegiance was always to someone else? Come on, Tom. Let's finish this the way we started it. Together.
The Battle of Hogwarts upends so many of the sets that we know, that we love, that we recognise. And luckily for us, I got to sit down with one of the magic makers responsible for creating those amazing spaces, art director Gary Tomkins. So let's see what he had to say. Gary Tomkins, welcome to Harry Potter, the official film podcast. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
So for Deathly Hallows Part 2, you weren't just designing the Wizarding World, you were essentially designing its collapse. So how did you approach making this world feel like it was coming apart at the seams?
Well, Stuart Craig, who is our fantastic production designer that worked on all the movies, he was kind of instrumental in coming up with the designs for the destruction of Hogwarts. And Hogwarts is something, you know, that I had been involved with since film 1. And it was kind of like an old friend. So, you know, to actually destroy it took a little bit of doing. Stuart's ethos for the destruction of Hogwarts was very much like his ethos for designing the castle itself. So it's all about, you know, sculptural shapes, proportions, and whereas, you know, there's a lot of care taken with the intact Hogwarts, similar care was taken with the destroyed Hogwarts. So where walls were broken down and, you know, piles of rubble, it was all very much designed very specifically, made to look like it was accidental, but actually compositionally it was as beautiful, if that's the right word to use, as the intact castle itself. It had to be, you know, soft polystyrene, so if anyone fell on it, it wouldn't harm them. And there were piles and piles of it everywhere. We actually, Stuart and the rest of us in the art department, we looked at old photographs of ruined buildings and, you know, bombed buildings, London in the Blitz, all that kind of thing, everything on those films. And, you know, very much that's what Stuart did, was you base everything in reality. You might dial it up to 11 now and then and make it a little bit fantastical, but essentially everything is very much rooted in reality. Whether that's the, you know, absolute purity of a Gothic tracery window or whether that's the way a building would collapse. It has to be real.
I want to talk a little bit more about Hogwarts because we've seen it as a place of refuge for so many years. It's a place of learning. It's Harry's home, and then it turns into a battlefield and a fortress. So, how did you make sure that we still felt that there was a safety in Hogwarts, despite the fact that it had been infiltrated by evil?
Yes, I mean, it is like an old friend. I always consider Hogwarts as being a character in its own right in the films, as well as all the main actors. And of course, that remained. The interesting thing about a lot of the destruction that we had to do for filming those scenes was we had to shoot all that due to actor availability. We shot that before we shot the intact Hogwarts. So there was a lot of destruction done and all the rubble that we're talking about in all our, familiar places.
Yeah.
In the Great Hall, for example, that still remained. And it was filled with rubble, but you still had, the stretchers and you had, the Weasley family in there and some very emotional scenes taking place. And it was still home. And emotions were running high to see the Great Hall being destroyed, as well as seeing some of our favourite characters, coming to a sticky end was quite emotional, especially as someone like, myself who had worked on Hogwarts since day one on the first Harry Potter film. And then here we are 10 years later on film number 8, and it's all kind of falling apart around you.
One location, it sort of bookends the whole series. It's the boathouse, because we see the first years arriving at Hogwarts, and then we also, this is Snape's iconic death scene as well. But, the students don't really go there in the interim. So you were sort of free to do with that, what you wanted. So what was the thinking behind where we were going to have this quite incredible, really a moment where everyone is so torn?
Well, we only ever built the boathouse, I think I'm right in saying, as a miniature, which is where you see them on that iconic shot in the first film where they're going across the lake and there's the boathouse. You see the castle for the first time, great moment.
Amazing shot.
And it was a fairly simple structure, but because it was decided to do the death scene in the boathouse, Stuart and David Yates had a conversation. They said, right, let's redesign the boathouse and let's put glazing in it, because by doing that, you can see the water outside. You can see Hogwarts burning in the distance. I mean, genius.
Yeah.
Stuart was a genius. And to come up with those ideas was absolutely tremendous. And I remember actually afterwards, I think Alan Rickman actually went to Stuart, which was quite unusual, and said, thank you for such a wonderful set. It made the acting so much easier.
Oh, really?
And I think that really touched Stuart, because, it's not often an actor will give that kind of feedback about a set to say it enhanced the performance.
Yeah.
But, I mean, the wonderful thing about this film series is, on every other film that I've ever worked on, continuity is king, and everything has to be absolutely in continuity. And with Hogwarts, every single film, Hogwarts Castle, the design changed because there were different things that came out in scripts, and, suddenly you need an owlery, or you need a Sirius Black's prison tower, or you need an astronomy tower. And of course, when we started the films, the latter books hadn't been published or even written. It's that wonderful thing that although traditionally when you work on a movie, you have to have continuity from one scene to another, from one episode to another. If anyone questioned it, we just say, well, it's magic. Of course Hogwarts changed design. And I think, that was, taken to the extreme with the boathouse. And, no one really questioned it. And again, if you look at the last films and the first films, you'll see all those changes on Hogwarts. So, yes, continuity, meh.
Who needs it?
New boathouse, of course. Again, in Deathly Hallows, we built, as part of the destruction of Hogwarts, we built what we called the battlement set. And that's where Harry and Voldemort are having their battle and then, ultimately fall over the balcony. That was a fantastic set to be involved with, because, Stuart came up with the idea that it should be up in one of the roof spaces of Hogwarts, lots of kind of, pointy roofs. Mm-hmm. And we did this fantastic set. We actually shot it in the 007 stage at Pinewood, because all of the stages at Leavesden were completely packed. So we said, okay, we need to... So in the 007 stage at Pinewood, which is one of the largest sound stages in Europe, we had this battlement set at one end and the Forbidden Forest at the other end. So this set, to add jeopardy to it, we would have, instead of a solid floor, we would have like hanging walkways on chains. And that would mean as the chase is going through, that you can get a little bit of movement and all of that. And I think You know, when Dan and Rafe came on and they were looking at that set, I think they were quite excited by it. I'm not sure the camera crew were quite as excited when they realised that if they put their camera down on a tripod, the whole thing could potentially rock from side to side. But it looked great. So they overcame it. Of course they did.
Do you have like a different approach when you're doing something, if you're kind of working on an exterior set versus an interior set?
I mean, one thing that Stuart always said, someone said to him, what's your favourite? Is it building a set or is it shooting on location? And he always said, building a set on location. Because then you've got nature doing the hard yards, they do all that, and then you can just include your own thing in there. In the Deathly Hallows, I was involved with Shell Cottage, and that was shot on the Welsh coast in Pembrokeshire. And we built that on the beach. We kind of prefabbed it in Leavesden Studios, first of all. Made lots of shells. We put shells on the roof, and the wall was as if it was like a kind of, stone wall, but we made it with massive kind of shells, and all those shells had little barnacles on, and the level of detail was tremendous. And we built it on the seafront down at Pembrokeshire, and that really was lovely because we had included, the colour palette of Shell Cottage was very much that of the surrounding sand dunes. So it looked like it had been there forever. It really did. As an art director and as an art department, you're just always fairly disappointed when you see the cut film and you've gone to all that detail, putting barnacle shells on the shells, and then actually what you're actually seeing in foreground is Dobby and the death of Dobby, and in the background out of focus is Shell Cottage. You think, we put a lot of effort into that. I wish we could see more of it, but we know it was there. I've got some lovely photographs. Well, I've got some lovely photographs, but that's a good example of approaching an exterior set versus an interior, because you can get nature to help you do the heavy lifting.
Gary, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast. It's been such a pleasure to talk to you.
No, thank you so much. Time flies.
For the final time, Amy, are you ready for some trivia?
What if I said no this time?
I would not let you.
Okay.
I would make you be ready.
Then yes.
What does Dumbledore say is their most inexhaustible source of magic? This is such a beautiful moment. Is it A, children? Is it B, love? Or is it C, words?
I feel as though he wouldn't say children, since he's willing to say, Harry's gotta die.
That would be really hypocritical of him.
I'm going to say he would go with words.
He does go with words because he talks a lot about love. But in this moment, there's a really beautiful quote where he's talking about the use of language and words. What does Ron drop when he's attacked by Nagini? Is it A, his wand? Is it B, the sword? Or is it C, a basilisk fang?
I think that of all the things he's holding in that scene, because he's preparing to attack and kill, it's going to be C, a basilisk fang.
It is a basilisk fang. And we're all like, Ron, no!
I can't put on a sweater. What do you expect?
Yeah, he's clumsy. Clumsy Ron. What are the final two lines of the entire series? Is it A, off you go, bye? Is it B, ready? Ready. Or is it C, after all this time, always?
If I get this wrong, I feel like I'm going to be expelled out of this room. I'm going to go with the answer I would want it to be the end of, which is B, ready, ready.
That is 100% correct.
Oh, phew.
Well
I like
done,
that. I love the
Amy.
idea of being ready.
Yeah.
Ready for anything.
Ready. You did really well. I'm going to give you 200 points to Ravenclaw.
I'd like to thank the Ravenclaw Academy.
I really enjoyed how excited you were that your water spilled out there. It was just like, cheers.
Yeah.
Amy did very well, but if you think you can do any better, then head to harrypotter.com/quiz to test out your own trivia knowledge. And the trolley has arrived. So normally at this point of the podcast, I would get you to give me your hottest take, or if you just had any commentary or favourite moments that you wanted to talk about. But because we are at the end, I'm instead asking you to tell me your favourite point of the whole Harry Potter series. And for that, I will still reward you with something sweet from the trolley.
I hope you mean it, because I'm not sure you're going to like what I'm going to say again.
Uh-oh.
When I think of my favorite / most memorable, I might make a most memorable moment of the whole Potter franchise, I really enjoy the death of Cedric Diggory. I'm so sorry.
Amy!
But let me explain myself.
You just made me choke on nothing. What?
Here's why. Because to me, that is the turning point emotionally where I was like, oh, this series has not come to play.
Uh-huh.
You know, it was really a shock. It was really like a sit up straight. Not only because of the character of Cedric himself, he seems like the greatest guy, but because this to me was my introduction of Robert Pattinson. And
we all remember our introduction to Robert Pattinson.
We do. We do. But we have to. To me, I think of that moment a lot because it says to me, like, in putting together this gigantic franchise, the absolute attention to detail, even in the smaller parts of the series, who's a great talent? Who am I going to pick? Who am I going to put in this? It feels like an anointing to have Robert Pattinson in that really pivotal emotional moment for me. And that's what I cling to, especially as a film critic, because when I think of Harry Potter, I think of the actors who came out of it. These great British and Irish actors like Harry Melling, who's suddenly becoming such an interesting actor. You know, his Dudley disappears in Deathly Hallows, gets in a car, goodbye, doesn't get any sort of major goodbye. But to have him back all over the screens lately doing like interesting art house stuff, it's fascinating. So to me, what I treasure the series for is its casting. I treasure Daniel Radcliffe doing so many interesting movies after this.
Really, really wise choices for him.
But I'm going to put it all on the death of Cedric Diggory to be like, oh, boom, here's Robert Pattinson, major movie star, going to be part of the next wave of really interesting films.
Yeah.
Great guy, kill him off. It's brutal, but I admire it.
I feel absolutely convinced by your argument. It's fine. The way you said it, I was like, this woman is obsessed with death in Harry Potter. But yes, I agree. Cedric's death is a huge, huge turning point. We get a real sea... I mean, we have a few sea changes. I think Azkaban is one. But the fact that we see a child die on screen is something so unexpected. And also, I think, so vital. I think it's the shock of seeing it all. The camera doesn't shy away.
I think it makes you sit up straight in your theater seat. And I think it says that girl deserves some candy for saying that she respects Cedric Diggory's
Fine.
death.
That's what you're here for, isn't it? That's the only reason you came for some Harry Potter sweets.
You know the way to my heart.
What do you want? Amy, what would you like?
I want to try the fizzing Whizbees.
Is it just because they're so fun to say?
I do want to say fizzing Whizbees. I love the combination of chocolate and fruit.
They do spark in your mouth. So take it.
Okay, well, Rhianna, I have to hear yours. Oh, what is your moment?
This is so hard for me to kind of pick any one moment or character because there are just so many. I mean, it's overwhelming. I'm spoilt for choice. But I think when I think back to when I was first reading the books and moments that really resonated with me that then was sort of carried through into the films, it was the character of Lupin and especially Harry and Lupin's relationship. And then to see how that played out in The Prisoner of Azkaban and seeing him come in again as like this protector of Harry, where he's teaching him about the Patronus charm, but also about his parents. There is this real sort of beautiful legacy of friendship and kinship and these familial threads that I think run throughout all of Harry Potter. And for me, that began with Lupin. I was seeing it so much from Harry's perspective when I was watching the films as a kid. And then when I got older and I was sort of seeing it from Lupin's perspective as well. And I guess just about how he had to step into this role that he hadn't been able to occupy for so many years and everything that he wanted to pass down to Harry. There is something incredibly special to me about their connection, their link. And I know we talk about Sirius a lot. For me, it's always Lupin. That's what it has always come back to from the very beginning of my fandom anyway.
I think that's really beautiful.
Thank you.
I really love how you said that.
And for my treat, I'm going to go back to the Hogwarts Express and Bertie Bott's Every Flavour beans because they were always the most magical for me. So it feels fitting that that's where we end. Cheers to the end of our look back.
Cheers.
Cheers. All right, Trolley, for the final time, you've done your job. Thank you very much. You may leave us. So that is Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2, a film that starts with Polyjuice and ends back on platform 9 3/4, where a Hogwarts journey began all those years ago. Amy, thank you so much for joining me for the conclusion of this iconic film series.
I cannot think of anybody I'd rather go down this path with than you.
Me too, thank you.
Ready for whatever's next?
Ready?
Ready.
And to all of you out there, thank you so much for following along with us as we rewatched every Harry Potter film on HBO Max. Our look back at the films might be coming to an end, but we still have more in store. Be sure to subscribe to this podcast and watch this space for updates and announcements. The magic doesn't end here. In the meantime, keep up with the latest from us on social media at Harry Potter. Until then, I think it's time for me to start yet another rewatch of my favourite films from the very beginning. I'll see you there. Bye.
Bye.
Harry Potter, the official film podcast, is produced by HBO Max in partnership with Pod People. This podcast is hosted by me, Rhianna Dhillon. Our head writer and lead producer is Angela Palladino, and our associate producer is Emily Mansfield. Our line producer and production manager is Hannah Pedersen. Casting by Brianna Frapart. Production design done by Liz Klakowski and her team Kevin Fallon, Marcel Banks, Jeff Cross and Amelia Caceres. Our technical director is In-Sung Huang, along with camera operator Nick Gregorio. Our studio audio engineer is Frank Galvan. Hair and makeup by Ali Elizabeth. Production assistance by Cameron Robson. Our video editor is Susanna Vasquez, and the show is mixed by Carter Wogan and Marina Pais. From the HBO Max podcast team, Alison Cohen-Sorokach, Michael Gluckstadt, Becky Rowe, Kenya Reyes, and Erin Kelly. Special thanks to Emily Brandon and Reese Allgood from the Harry Potter digital team. Thank you for watching and listening, and we'll see you next time.